What's going on, everyone? So the Toronto Raptors are the worst team in basketball. A lot of that has been just due to injury this season. But one of the real standouts for the Toronto Raptors has been Jakob Poeltl. And it just so happens that the Los Angeles Lakers could really use a center. They could really use a big physical presence down at the center position. And Jakob Poeltl, based on the way he's played this season, is somebody that actually makes a lot of sense kind of filling that hole, filling that void, right? I mean, he's coming off of a very impressive game and a game that they almost beat the Boston Celtics, and we even got the last 2-minute report and all that stuff, and supposedly Jason Tatum traveled, and that may have potentially changed the tide of the game. I mean, the Toronto Raptors may have actually won that game. And it was at the head of Jakob Poeltl, right? I mean, you talk about a guy in that game, gave you 35 points in 37 minutes, along with 12 rebounds, was 16 and 19 from the floor, 3 of 4 from the foul line, 1 steal, only 2 turnovers, 2 fouls, right? Had himself a game. And that would be incredibly welcomed. Now, thing about Jakob Poeltl, there's really a couple things, right? One, he at times can be inconsistent, right? He is at times, and it also begs the question of how much of it is kind of like empty stats on a bad team, right? You see it all the time. A guy that Jakob Poeltl's always been a good center. Right? He's never been a bad center, but he's never been known as this defensive stopper, right? He doesn't really run the floor well. It's kind of more like you dump the ball down to him and he can go to work. I really like his versatility in the sense of he can knock down the 15-footer and stuff, but he's not this guy that you have heavily stretching the floor or anything like that, right? This is a guy that you're dumping the ball down to and he's just going to work on the post. He's a guy that can make plays out of the post, which would be nice, right? His ability to be a playmaker. You can even slot him alongside Anthony Davis, but he's also a guy that is not really that rim protector that the Lakers have been looking for, and kind of the style and fit. Is he somebody that kind of makes sense around that? Now, in the half-court sense, makes all the sense in the world, right? Again, a center that you can just put on the block, he can go to work, you can dump it down to him, take pressure off of LeBron James, take pressure off of Anthony Davis, he can help with the rebounding department. And this season, though, he is having a pretty good all-around season, even on the defensive side of things. So far, through 14 games for the Toronto Raptors, he's averaging 32.6 minutes per game. He is averaging 12 attempts. He's shooting 60%, 59.5% if you want to be exact. He is from three-point range. Again, doesn't take threes. Not a guy that's going to stretch the floor. Guy that's just primarily down on the block. But, again, shooting 59.5% from two-point range. All of his attempts, all 12, are from two-point range. He has an EFG of 59.5 because, again, that's his percentage. And then from the foul line, not a great free throw shooter, although his percentage is up since the last few seasons at 64%, which, again, is not great on 3 attempts per game. He's averaging right now 11.6 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 1.1 steal, 1.3 blocks, 2.5 turnovers, 3.6 fouls, and 16 points. So he's averaging basically 16, 12, and 3 with 1.1 blocks and 1.1 steals. It's really good, right? It's very balanced. He's doing a little bit of everything. If he could give you anywhere close to that, right? And even in particular, offensively, the role that he would play. You're not asking, you don't necessarily need him to go give you 16 a night, right? It would be nice if he could do that, but you kind of need him more for his size, his rebounding, his playmaking out of the post, his ability to where, you put him in this style of offense where, you can have him at the top of the key and he can kind of make plays, see over the top of the defense, but also be a guy that, you can dump down on the block and he can just kind of play out of the double team or, dish it out to Anthony Davis or kick it out to shooters, kind of be the swing man, right? There's a lot of versatility with Jakob Poeltl there. He just turned 29 in October, so you still have another year before he's 30, and he's making $19.5 million though. So essentially, you got to send out $20 million because you're going to have to send out multiple guys. in order to get a Jakob Poeltl, right? So, would it be worth it to do like D'Lo and, Maxwell Lewis or something like that, right? To where you kind of just match them up, boom, there you go, bring them in, you cleared, 500,000 off your books. Or do you look it to be kind of like a pack? Maybe you get Bruce Brown and you get Jakob Poeltl. But now you're talking like $43 million in salary you need to send out, which, a lot of interest in Zach LaVine. I'm a big Zach LaVine guy. I would love to see Zach LaVine making $43 million. You got to send out $43 million. So you're talking like Gabe Vincent, D'Angelo Russell, and Rui Hachimura. Get you a Jakob Poeltl and a Bruce Brown, right? Maybe you're throwing in a first because you're getting both of them, right? Like, sure. Although I do think that there's an argument that, like, are either guy worth a first? Maybe collectively, yes. But if you get both, I wouldn't give up both first for those guys because you are taking on a lot of salary. And Jakob Poeltl isn't, like, without his faults. Like, isn't, and there are kind of questions of, like, how would he kind of mesh in this offense? Also, are you starting Jakob Poeltl? Because if you are, then you're moving LeBron to the 3. Is LeBron going to be okay playing the 3? Is that even what's best for the team to have him play the 3? Because, one, is Jakob Poeltl going to want to come off the bench? 2, even if he is willing to come off the bench, right? Like, how many minutes are you going to be looking for him to get? 3, you're paying him nearly $20 million, $19.5 million, literally for the next 3 seasons because he has a player option in the 3rd year, and I don't see him not taking that, right? Like, $19.5 million, he's probably not going to get that anywhere else. So you're talking about, like, 3 years of him kind of getting a pretty hefty bag. Can you really justify bringing him off the bench for as long as LeBron plays? Because what if LeBron plays that entire contract tenure? All right, it's like, it's just there's still questions about that, but I don't hate the idea. I don't hate the risk. And from a Toronto perspective, like, you're not winning anything this year. Because, like, I've seen, like, when I've talked about Jakob Poeltl in the past, people are like, oh, well, who's Toronto going to play center? Like, they have other guys, right? Like, they like, who do you think that they play when Jakob Poeltl misses a game or he is coming off the bench or he goes, not coming off the bench, but goes to the bench, right? Like, oh, you think they're playing a guard at center? No. Right? Like, they have other guys. And, again, you're a bad team. You're not, they're literally the worst team in the NBA right now. Like, I don't necessarily see that changing, even by the time Scottie Barnes, like, they weren't even a contender fully healthy. They're not going to all of a sudden magically become a contender, right? Like, I'm sure that they're a team that would probably prefer the assets. Give us the assets. Give us the pieces to do so. Toronto, as a whole, makes a lot of sense for us as, like, a trade partner. Even like a Kelly Olynyk, right? Makes some sense for the Lakers. I'll give you another versatile, sizable floor stretching big that can play the 4 or the 5. I know he's hurt right now, Bruce Brown, stuff like that. But when these guys get back and these guys get right and get healthy. But from a Jakob Poeltl standpoint, he's going to be playing a different role, right? Does he fit and make sense alongside Anthony Davis? Like, if anyone can kind of mask the lack of defense at times from Jakob Poeltl, it's Anthony Davis. But you kind of would like a guy that can hold his own to some degree, to some capacity, right? You want a guy that, you can kind of trust out there to, hey, AD's on the bench, and it's like, here you go, Jakob Poeltl, right? Like, but again, his rebounding would go a long way. His rebounding would be incredibly warranted. His ability to kind of just, be a guy that you can kind of dump the ball in. Like, look at Valanciunas and Vucevic and guys like that, like, it's part of their skill set. It's part of what adds to them is that you can just dump the ball down to them and they can go to work around the rim. They can also make plays out of the post, but those guys can also stretch the floor. That's where the difference with Jakob Poeltl is. He's not a guy that stretches the floor. But Anthony Davis is shooting the 3 ball so well this season. Can you kind of get away with it? Right? Can you kind of justify that? Where it's like, okay, well, we can kind of run an inside-out game, 2-man game with Jakob Poeltl and Anthony Davis. I think that could be kind of interesting as well. Again, it's not really my favorite. If it's something where, like, Toronto's like, like, the only way, like, you get Bruce Brown is if you take Jakob Poeltl, but like you don't have to give us 2 firsts, like it's just a first, right? Like something like really boils down to the price for me and the other options. Obviously, ideally, I'd still prefer Walker Kessler, right? Like he gives you everything that Jakob Poeltl gives you, and then some. Better, just defensive player, rim protector, period. And he's like 10 years younger, 7 years younger, right? Like there's clear benefits to a Walker Kessler that I think is ideal. But beyond that, it's like all the other guys outside of Valanciunas, I probably still prefer Valanciunas, if I'm being honest. Gives you basically everything Jakob Poeltl gives you, right? Except for he can stretch the floor better. He still gives you the playmaking, still gives you the back to the basket type thing. But also Valanciunas is a guy that you can, at $10 million, justify coming off the bench. And he's a guy that would probably be more willing to come off the bench than a Jakob Poeltl. I just think it's a better position for the Lakers to be in. And you don't kind of have this like he wants to start. We don't really want him to start. Making $19.5 million. It's like, I just, you look at all kind of like most of the centers on the market, they're all kind of in that like 18 to 20 million range, right? Like, if I'm being honest, I'd probably prefer Jakob Poeltl over, but it's like, even then, it's like, okay, would you rather have Jakob Poeltl over like Brook Lopez? Age-wise, yes, but like Brook Lopez gives you the floor spacing, and he's the better just defensive guy. Would you prefer him over Vucevic? I don't think I would. Right? I think Vucevic just gives you everything Jakob Poeltl does, except for also gives you floor spacing. Yeah, he's a little older, but I just think he's the better player. And then, it's like, okay, well, Valanciunas, Clint Capella is another one. Okay, I'd probably take Jakob Poeltl over Clint Capella, although Clint Capella is a free agent after this season, so you get kind of that flexibility. I don't know. Anyway, again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. Just kind of wanted to talk about it because he's having himself quite the season. He really is. He's having himself a very good season. So I was like, hey, let's talk about Jakob Poeltl and see what your thoughts are and where you guys are at. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Else but not, we enjoy these types of videos and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.